Hi Hypno-Yogis! Thanks for joining me for another video. Today I'd like to talk a little about natural hygiene. I actually got into natural hygiene a long time ago after a terrible accident. I was hit by a car which left me disabled. I couldn't even walk hardly with a cane. I was overweight and in pain. You've probably seen my other story. But one of the ways that I became free from that situation was through discovering a technique called natural hygiene. Now, natural hygiene is a lot different from like naturopathic medicine. A lot of times in naturopathic medicine, they want you to take supplements and things like that. And in natural hygiene, you don't really take supplements like that. Natural hygiene comes more from the theory that Hippocrates once said that your food should be your medicine and your medicine should be your food. And this reigns true because a lot of people don't understand how many food allergies there are out there. I know a lot of you have probably heard about gluten intolerance and things like that, but that's just one of the many things which people can be allergic to and how it can affect people. I remember hearing from one of my natural hygiene teachers about this story of this person who was living at her clinic. She was trying to help heal her from schizophrenia. Unfortunately, this client got worse and worse and worse, so bad that she began to become flirtatious with the clinician's husband, and she caused all kinds of problems. So they put her on a specific diet, but they continued to give her grains and dairy. And she continued to get worse and worse and worse. Eventually, she had a really bad episode of schizophrenia and took off back in the forest. They lived up in Oregon where there was a lot of land. And she disappeared for many days. Apparently, it turned out that she had ran out in the forest and passed out under a pile of leaves. She was there for about a week, but she didn't get dehydrated because of all the moisture that was in the air, especially compacted in the leaves where she was at. She'd spent, I think she said it was like 2 weeks or something out there. And basically, if you look at that, if you're not going to eat for 2 weeks, that's a fast. And fasting is part of the natural hygiene diet. Well, eventually, she came back to the house, came back to the clinic, and she was fine. She had purified herself from all those things that she was allergic to, and they began to reassess her nutrition. And they found that she was allergic to dairy and wheat. And the dairy and wheat was causing more of the symptoms of her schizophrenia. And when they were able to take those away, she was able to manage her mental disorder much more efficiently. That clinician herself was diagnosed with cancer, which sent her on her path of natural hygiene and trying to eat closer to the garden. She survived until she was in her 50s, even though she was diagnosed with cancer in her teens. She fasted, she ate well, and she pretty much lived a long, healthy lifestyle, even though the doctors said that her chances were really slim of survival. Someone who I know, named John, had extreme eczema. He would get it all over his butt, he would get it on his hands and on his face and everywhere. He went on a fast, and then he started reintroducing foods the natural hygienic way. He found that he was allergic to soy and corn. Every time he ate soy and corn, he would break out. And if you read ingredients, you'll see that soy and corn is in almost everything these days. He also noticed that he was allergic to latex, and he had to change the underwear that he wore. But he was only able to find those things out after he went on a fast and started reintroducing natural foods. One of my friends had asthma. He had asthma so bad that he had to use an inhaler every day. He had 2 inhalers. One of them was a lung steroid that he used so that he wouldn't have an asthma attack, yet he was still having asthma attacks, and he had to use an emergency inhaler also. He went on a fast, and he started reintroducing healthy whole foods and realized through that he was allergic to grains. He used to drink a lot of beer, and he had to eliminate grain alcohol and wheat. He also realized that he was allergic to dairy. And once he eliminated all of those things, after another fast, his asthma symptoms went away. My friend Joanne was overweight her whole life. And when I started sharing this information with her, she thought maybe that natural hygiene would be able to help her also. So she went on a fast and started reintroducing foods. And she noticed that when she ate gluten and rice, she would gain more weight and feel less active, which in turn made her feel less likely to exercise. So we found that her allergies were wheat and rice. She had tried to go gluten-free for a long time because she thought she may have been gluten intolerant. And a lot of the gluten-free fad food out there right now has a lot of rice. But what they don't tell you is that rice is high glycemic, which helps pack on the pounds. And she found that she was getting constipated from those types of starchy foods. So she began to eat a more raw living diet. Then it came to my friend's child, Luke, who had really bad temper tantrums. I mean, this was one of those wild childs. Very hard to control. And my friends didn't pay attention to his diet. They gave him all kinds of candy and sugar, refined foods, sweets and treats. And so they didn't feel comfortable giving him a fast, which I totally understand. Children are a little bit more difficult. They need to eat. But they did start looking at the foods that they were feeding their child. And they noticed that they were feeding the child lots of sugars, lots of candies and things like that. And I had mentioned that red food dye sometimes will cause behavioral problems, especially combined with high fructose corn syrup and refined sugar. So they decided to try it for a week. They took away all of the high fructose corn syrup foods, the refined sugars, and the red food dyes. And believe it or not, his behavior changed immensely. It was almost like he was a different child. So his allergies were all in the candies and sweets that his parents were giving him. So instead of giving him the candies and sweets, they started feeding him more raw fruits, some of those healthy sugars, and it changed him. And you know how important it is for a child to have a good start? It's vital to development and how confident they are. So now this child is a stronger, healthier, confident person moving in through life. So natural hygiene is all about the foods that we eat, the things that we consume. But that's just one of the things I'll be talking about in this video series. And before I get too deep in any of them, I'll probably touch base a little bit and share some more stories like this one about how important these little tidbits can be. And then we'll dive really deep into each one of these subjects so that you guys are able to empower yourselves. Thank you so much for joining me for another video of Hypno Yogis. If you need more coaching, if you need a private service, please contact me. I'm available to you. My phone number is 530-828-0880. You can also ask any questions you like underneath this video, or check out my website at www.hypnoswami.com. Until next time, Hypno Yogis, Hypno Swami out.